Welcome to Not a Real Artist, a podcast by me, Iris Fritschi-Cussens.
And me, Tamara, discussing relatable creative topics with honesty and humour.
In this episode, we're going to be talking about gaming, which I'm very excited about because I like gaming. And probably have done from a very young age. Oh my god, guys, I could talk about gaming and my relationship with games for 300 hours. I have that much material, but I won't. I will also let Tamara speak about her relationship with gaming. Tamara, do you think of yourself or identify as a gamer?
No, I do not. And I was actually thinking about that this morning. How much or how many games or how many hours do you need to log, or what equipment do you need? What is the behavior, possessions, etc. that one needs to qualify as a gamer? And I don't view myself as a gamer, but I think to somebody who might play 1 hour of games in 3 months, I might be considered a gamer. But personally, no. I'm going to ask you the same question.
So do I feel like a gamer? Am I a gamer? It's funny because I struggle with this, and I've related it before to this question of, am I an artist? And then all of the kind of the artificial barriers that you put up and say, well, I'm an artist if I do this, this, and this, but not if I am only this and this. And I kind of feel similarly about being a gamer. So, and I also understand you can look at it from 2 points of view, because somebody the other day when I was talking about games and what I used to play, he was like, oh, wow, so you're like really a hardcore gamer. And I'm like, well, actually, no, that's not how I see myself. I hardly even see myself as being able to lay claim to that label of gamer, because I have always been a casual gamer, can't put a ton of time into it because I've got, other things in life and stuff. But I think that's the point I'm making is like, yes, I am a gamer. I would like to describe myself as a gamer, but I also have, I guess, this hang up, this kind of gatekeeping feeling of like, but really I can't call myself a gamer because I don't make my career out of it or game 24/7 or play lots of different games, because if you're a gamer, then you're like up on all the latest trends and trying all the latest games and stuff. And I've never been like that. I've always been a very kind of one track mind when it comes to gaming, just playing one game for a decade. I'm looking at you, World of Warcraft. So yeah, that's kind of how I feel about the term gamer.
When I was a kid, I feel like the term gamer was number one, something that was just associated with like American kids and kids that could afford not to study or work hard, etc. And then it became like a term for slacker, or if I was playing, because I used to play a lot of games when I was younger with my dad, is a waste of time, or even too many board games, because there's other things that you need to do. And I don't have that anymore, but I'm just thinking about it now. Like if somebody said, I'm a gamer, that the connotation has actually really changed, because gaming is something that you can be successful at, and it's a universal success. And I think even the access to games has improved.
That's really interesting. And I think it's interesting that for you, video gaming and board gaming is kind of in a similar camp, whereas for me, it's in two very different camps. So I have always had that feeling. Like I've had this real attraction to video games. When I was little, we didn't have a computer. And so whenever I would go somewhere else and they would have a computer and they would show me some games and stuff, I'd be like, wow, this is amazing. And we're talking about early 90s, very kind of like duotone monitor, very simple kind of games, the people that I knew or like their parents would have on their computers and stuff. So I was very interested and very fascinated. But then at the same time, once I got a little bit older, I think I somehow really absorbed this negative view of it. Like, video games are silly, they're a waste of time, why don't you read a book, that kind of thing. And I don't really know where this comes from, but I do know that I still carry it with me to this day. But then on the flip side of that, board games, I feel like that's something that I used to do with my mum a lot. So I'm an only child. My mum was a single parent. We would play board games together, and I have really good memories of playing board games with her. And so to me, board games don't come under the same waste of time, read a book instead. And I think maybe part of that is because it's a social thing, you're always playing a board game with another person. But then when it comes to how I do video gaming, for me, video gaming is a social thing as well. Like, sure, I have played some games just by myself. Like I'm playing The Witcher at the moment. I've played Assassin's Creed Origins, which I very much enjoyed. And those are single player games. If we're talking about the hundreds and hundreds of hours that I have spent gaming in my life, it will have been when I was little, it would have been together with friends sitting next to each other on the one computer, either like playing a racing game together or like playing The Sims together with one person controlling the characters and the other person watching and saying, hey, do this or do that. And then more recently, when I would play World of Warcraft, or currently I'm playing Fortnite, I play with other people in teams. And that, to me, that is my jam. That is what I love about gaming. And that is the thing that when I start to play single player games, I get bored and I'm like, no, I need it to be with other people. So yeah, it is also a social thing. So I don't know exactly where this kind of, I guess, artificial delineation comes from for me, with this harsh judgment about gaming, computer gaming, being somehow terrible and makes me a terrible person, because that is what I feel. We're getting really deep now. And board gaming is like something good and social and fun to do with the family and that kind of thing. I don't know.
As soon as you started talking about like board games and playing with your mom, I was like, I'll be honest. I had a lot of board games, but I would play them by myself. I was playing Scrabble against myself. I was playing Trivial Pursuit against myself. Like all of those games, I think more and more I realized that I lived a lot of my life as an only child, even though I wasn't. At one point in my life, I was the only child. So hearing you say that like you associate board games like it's a social activity for you, I was like, oh yeah, of course it is, because you played with other people. But I only really have that experience of playing a board game with other people for like one specific game. Even Monopoly.
Well, Monopoly doesn't make you any friends.
What I was thinking about was, I think it's also this concept of television. I don't know if you grew up this way, but television is the devil. Or you always see things about like children watching TV and their eyes turn into squares. Or is that just me?
No, that's a 90s thing, I think.
Games or gaming, like even those earlier consoles was on the television. So it's just like TV's bad for your eyes. You should be outside. You should be doing this. Whereas when you're doing board games, just besides the social activity, it feels like it's a little bit more like invested in physical versus you just watching TV.
Yeah, like active versus passive. But I think that's really interesting that you're making that link between consoles that are on a TV and TV that's on a TV, because I do think that gaming is much more active than watching TV.
I used to be under the impression, like even as an adult, that gaming was a waste of time. Like I would look at my husband with a lot of judgment and I would think things like, oh God, if we ever have kids, like, is this man just going to be playing computer games? And just put in a bag there. My dad used to play games with me until I actually sat down and like started watching him play games and seeing the decisions, the moral decisions, the choices, what you could become, the amount of effort that goes into storylines and the graphics. And just gaming from when I was a child and what I understood it to be was so much less one-dimensional. And it really opened my eyes into also the problem here is not that he plays video games. It's that just I can't rest. And I am viewing this as an inferior way to rest and recharge. And once I got that judgment out of my mind and started playing some of the video games I was playing as a kid and playing new ones, I think it was really important for my growth as a person, because some of the scenarios I face in the game, like this moral decision, am I going to stab this person who's killed the elf or not? And usually I'd be like, yeah, he killed. But then you hear that the elf has actually taken his children captive and put them somewhere. And there's another part of it. There's a part of me that just, I think, craves some vengeance in my life. Maybe it's the part that's been silenced or unheard or unexpressed. And I feel like video games have really given me that. And so what if you're a dad or a parent that wants to play video games with your child? That's what I remember about my dad. One of many things that shouldn't be a judgment against. Not that I'm trying to soothe you, Iris. You play video games with your kids, right?
I do play video games with my kids, which is a very gratifying experience because that's kind of like what I dreamed of since before I had kids, like, and then when I have kids, then we're going to play video games together and board games as well. We started with board games when they were very young, like 2 or 3, whatever, and then video games a bit later. So it's really wild and it's really gratifying, and it's just so fun to like play together. Like to walk around Minecraft together or to be in a team in Fortnite together, that kind of stuff, and to introduce them to those things that I like.
Do you treat your kids as normal players? So if the chance comes for you to shoot their heads off, do you do it?
We tend to play collaboratively. It doesn't work so well to play against each other. I think that's also to do with just who they are as people. Like with my eldest, Jupiter, I get to, we can play against each other a bit better. But with my youngest, he will just, he'll just cry if I beat him too much. So, but that's with board games the same. And it's an interesting parenting question, actually. Less so maybe with video games, I'm not sure, but with board games, sometimes, that you've got different board games, some that are very much luck based, some that are more skill based, more kind of like strategy, decision making based. And obviously, as my kids are growing up, when they were very little, of course I could beat them. Of course I could win the game. It's just, you're not necessarily going to do that. But like, how do you straddle the line between teaching them and giving them a real opponent, but also not like making them feel terrible because you are the adult and you're the one who always wins, because you don't really want to do that either. So it's been interesting in terms of like, letting them win and letting them learn and stuff like that. And I don't like to make myself purposefully lose or to like make them purposefully win, as in like I'm not even an opponent really. But I do sometimes say, like, do you want me to play my best or not? There'll be games where, so specifically my youngest, he is the gamer. Like the oldest is not as much into board games. But with my youngest, I play a lot of board games. And, the satisfaction and the pride that he feels from actually beating me at a game, because he has grasped the strategy, like the rules, of course, first of all, but the strategy and the thinking, and then is able to use the mechanics of the game with a little bit of luck, because most games are also a little bit of luck. He will beat me. And the satisfaction that he experiences from that is huge. And that's very, very nice to see. I really like that. I probably didn't answer your question whatsoever.
No, you did. And I was just wondering, like, what route you choose and how you make those choices. And I like the way you said that. I like this, like, do you want me to play my best today? It also sounds very threatening.
Yeah, but I mean, it's difficult because like, I do feel like that I have an inherent wish for fairness in terms of like, I don't know, no, fairness isn't the right word, but as in like, I find it very difficult to lose on purpose. And I do think that maybe my kids have suffered from that a little bit, like that is not the only parenting decision that you can make. Then at the same time, like I have asked Zephyr before, that's my youngest, when he's like crying because he lost, I'm like, do you want me to let you win? And then he'll say no, he doesn't want that. And I think that's also about letting kids have their big feelings. And I feel like playing games is such a great place to experience these things, because the thing is, losing is painful. And as adults, we might be very good at rationalizing and going like, oh, good game, well done you, because we're adults and we moderate our big feelings and stuff because of what's socially acceptable. But when I look at my kids, and especially my youngest again, he is very much, if he's upset, he is big upset. If he loses at a game that he really either thought he was going to win or really wanted to win, he will have a meltdown. Less now than he used to, but we just sat through that. I would be with him. I would sympathize with him. He would usually like bat away my sympathy because obviously I was the cause of the pain. Yeah. Like, oh my God, like I was the evil one. So, but by allowing those feelings to come up and to not demand of him that he was a good sport or that he was a team player or whatever, but just letting him cry and be upset and whatever, he has really over time, and this is a very long process, he's developed a very healthy, positive gamer's mentality because he has the opportunity to, in a safe space, express all those big feelings. And I also, because the thing is, it's like, let's say that my kids were going to play with their friends. And obviously, like maybe they're going to play Monopoly. This does happen sometimes. And, you know, one of them is going to lose. And you'd want them to have the opportunity or the capability of being a good loser, basically, because we know about sore losers and you don't want people to be a sore loser. But I do think that it takes time and it takes, I don't know, they need to have the opportunity to let those feelings out so that in certain situations where it is not preferable to let those feelings out, like, for example, if you are doing a competitive chess tournament, you know, with other people, or you are with your friends and, you know, you want to have a good time, that you're not going to have a meltdown. So I think it's really important. And also, I just want to touch upon, we know about sore losers, but there's also sore winners, people who win.
Oh, hell yeah. They are the pits.
And I actually find sore winners worse than sore losers. It's someone who wins and then rubs it in or puts the other person down, like, you know, I won and you're terrible, or is it that kind of thing? And, you know, I really, really hate that. Let's all be good winners, not sore winners.
When it comes to shit winners, my family, and I'm saying this about my extended family, they are a bunch of shit winners. They are the shittest winners. And if they're listening to this, you know who you are. It's all of you.
Shots fired.
I wanted to ask you about a game that you're currently playing. Would you like to talk about it? It's called Fortnite.
Oh, is it Fortnite? You're inviting me to talk about Fortnite. Wow.
I've watched you playing Fortnite. It is the most fucking stressful game I have ever watched in my life.
Yes.
And I enjoy watching you play it. But I'm just like, oh my God, Iris, you need to fly. You need to fly. There's somebody shooting at you. It's stressful.
It is very stressful.
Okay, I'm glad you find it stressful too. But do you understand the components that make like Fortnite attractive to you? And what is it that you get from Fortnite?
That's a really interesting question, actually, because I have noticed myself that, like I already touched upon earlier, that if I don't play with other people, I tend to find things boring and I will want to play with other people. So there's that. But also, I often think to myself, like, I'll try different games and I will play them for like half an hour or maybe an hour, and then I'll be bored. And I'm like, well, I'm not much of a gamer because, you know, I get bored of loads of different games so quickly and I don't really want to play them. But then there are certain games that I will literally play for years, like World of Warcraft, and I've played a lot of Minecraft as well, and then now I'm playing Fortnite. And I was thinking to myself, like, what is it about these games that makes me want to just keep playing it and put so many hours into it and stuff like that? And one of the reasons is the social aspect. It's being able to play it with other people. You know, you can play Fortnite by yourself as a solo player, but you can also play it in teams and you can be on voice chat together, and that's just really fun. Sometimes, like, I get distracted from like people talking socially and I'm like, no, we need to concentrate on like the game. But there's also, so it's a shooting game, if you're not familiar with it. 100 people drop down into a map and it's the last one standing that wins. And if you're playing in a team, then it's still 100 people. But if you're in a team of 2 people, it will just be 50 teams of 2 people. And then the last team standing is the team that wins, etc. So there's the attraction of winning, obviously, being the last one standing. That's very enticing, almost. That's got like a slight kind of addictive gambling attraction to it, because you just want to win and just one more, you know, that kind of thing. But there's also, to me, like the mechanics of the game, like the marksmanship. Like, I really enjoy marksmanship. Also in real life, we went air rifle shooting the other week when we were on holiday, and I very, very much enjoy that kind of mechanical, physical skill. And that skill exists in Fortnite, and obviously in a different way because it's a computer game, but I really enjoy that. And then just, it looks fun, and it's just, it's not too realistic. I think if it was too realistic, like warlike simulation, then I don't think I would enjoy it as much. But it's just kind of like slightly cartoony and fun and slightly childlike, and there's silly items and stuff, and you can change your avatar to look in different ways. Like you can have different costumes and stuff, and it's very attractive in it ticks a lot of boxes, I guess, is what I'm saying for me. And also, actually, I have not touched on one thing that I think is important, which is there's a huge potential for improvement. So you start playing this game and you're not very good at the game. It's quite difficult. I mean, it's not so difficult that nobody can play it. Like the bar for entry is very low. You don't need to know anything. You don't need to be good at anything. You can just play it. But then if you want to get better and you want to beat other people at the game and be that last one standing, you will need to improve your skill. And there is a huge potential for improving your skill, both mechanically, like being able to press the buttons correctly and muscle memory and stuff, but also strategy wise. So we're talking about making the right decisions at the right time and that kind of stuff. And I find that hugely attractive, because a static game that is just always the same, irrespective of your kind of skill level or anything else, I feel like that gets boring quite quickly. But this game, because there's this potential for winning and you can influence the rate at which you win by increasing your skill and by practicing, I feel like that's my jam.
Are there level ups? So you're level 1 and now you're level X.
Yes, but they don't actually have anything to do with skill. So
okay,
you're like, if you wanted to kind of measure how good you are, then you would most likely be looking at your win rate, like how often are you winning. There is something called ranked, where you're like, the higher the rank you are, the harder it is, because you'll be playing against other people who are better. So your rank might say something about how good you are, but I think it still comes down at the end of the day to like, how many people are you killing and are you winning?
I didn't expand this thought or this idea about leveling up. Recently, we played a game where the players leveled up and they were so excited about it. And for me, I knew it was coming. So maybe that's why I wasn't as excited. I knew that.
Oh, yeah. Talk about this, because you're talking about D&D. And I have to say, leveling up in D&D is incredibly exciting.
We're playing D&D. I think I've mentioned this before. I'm the dungeon master. Our group has shrunk due to internal conflict.
Somebody stabbed the elf or something, and then they were like, I'm out of here.
No, just don't invite your brother's girlfriends to the game. That's the rule. Young love is fickle as fuck. Anyway, we're playing the game, and for me, what was really important, or what is very important, is the story. I am very invested in the story. I feel like it comes easy to me to weave together this tapestry, really, of look at me tooting my own horn, but it's a tapestry where not everything fits in neatly, but because that's not how real life works. But obviously leveling up in the game brings you different skills and different powers, different items, but I didn't think it was that important because I'm so invested in the story. So like when they leveled up, I was like, okay, I'm going to have to behave differently. And they were so excited. Like Michal couldn't stop talking to it. My brother sent me a message. He's like, oh, we leveled up. And when you're saying how important this is to you, I'm just thinking about games that I've played and how do I chase the level up, skill up portion. And of course, it's you want to get better at the game you play, but I've never thought about it. I've never thought that I want to go from a level 1 to a level 40 and what that means for me, or what it takes to get there. For me, it's usually about getting all the story. Obviously, by getting all of the story, you do become better. But I think I missed that critical component of gameplay.
I think that what you've said is really interesting, because I was thinking about this earlier as well, because I was thinking about relating it to art, where, you and I both are very much into process-based art, right? It's like, it's about the process of making it is really important, and the end result is nice, and it might have been part of the purpose, but it's a nice addition, or it's a nice culmination. So 100% of the work is in the creation, but 90% of the enjoyment is also in the creation, or the process, or whatever, or the purpose is the creation and not just the end result. And I feel like that's very, very apparent in D&D, where literally, if there was no story, and you were all level 20 and you'd won the game. There is no winning the game. Sure, you want to win against the individual monster or challenge that you've been set, but there's such a huge potential in D&D for the storytelling, for interesting situations and how they get resolved. And winning isn't always the most satisfying conclusion. And I think that's also the case for me, I enjoy playing Fortnite even when I don't win. And let me tell you, I don't win a lot. Like, as in, it's quite difficult to win. You know, you got to beat 99 other players. So the win percentage isn't that great. So if you're not enjoying the actual playing of it and the improvement and the strategizing, then why are you playing? Because, you know, you're not going to win all the time unless you cheat or unless you're like super good. But then, you know, if the only enjoyment you get is from winning, then that is a very poor experience of the game. And I think that that's an attitude when it comes to playing something like Fortnite, but when it comes to something like D&D, I kind of feel like that's completely baked into the game itself, that the playing of the game and the storytelling and the adventuring and the encountering and all that kind of stuff, that is the game. And if you don't get that, then, well, like, then you're going to not have a very good experience playing D&D, because you need to play for, I mean, you don't need to play, but like, you're going to have played for 3 to 4 hours, and then you're only going to have the satisfaction at the end because you got some gold pieces. Yeah, you've wasted 4 hours of your life if you didn't actually enjoy that process.
I was thinking about, like you say, like playing just for the sake of winning. Like Wordle, when it first came out, I found it very satisfying. And then came out like, this is always the word that you need to use in order to get it in the shortest amount of time.
Like metagaming Wordle, yes.
Yeah, and so I just stopped playing because like a word that I'm inserting, there's no challenge. And I've recently started playing Wordle again. And what I do is I open it and I'm like, whatever. And I just put in some 5 letters. And it's so much more satisfying that I actually started enjoying it again. And it actually feels like my brain is working. I think that's what I'm enjoying. The satisfaction is in my brain working.
Yeah, that's such a good example, though, because Wordle is such a simple game and it's quite a short game usually, unless you're like stuck on a word and you have to like think about it all day. But it's a really interesting question that you're asking, because you're basically saying, why am I playing Wordle? Am I playing Wordle to win? I mean, sure, you want to get the correct solution at the end, but how do you get there? And I've had a similar experience, because I remember exactly what you're saying, like, oh, this is the word you should try with lots and lots of vowels and stuff in it. And at a certain point I was like, no, I just want to say use a fun word and see where I go, kind of thing. And it's much more enjoyable that way.
And this is not to offend anybody, but maybe to just reassure you that if you have that word and that is the word that you use and that is the only thing that gets you playing the game, then like use the stepping stool that you need. Because I would rather you play the game and get it in 3 words and have played something than not play Wordle at all. Like, that also exists.
Like, you do you. Like,
yeah,
if
what's bringing you enjoyment?
Yeah, if you enjoy playing a game, then you want to play it in the way that you want to play it. Obviously, caveated that when you play it with other people, there's some, you have to come to an agreement. When you're playing Monopoly, you can't just go like, well, I'll just take all the money because that's how I enjoy playing the game. It doesn't really work. But it's an interesting thing, actually, because so my youngest was playing Fortnite as well, and he still plays it. But I think together we figured out that he's not always enjoying himself, and he will play it, not enjoy himself, and he will see me and his older brother playing and enjoying ourselves, and he'll get jealous, and he's like, well, but you're always winning. I mean, that's obviously not true, but that's how he feels. And then he realized, I think after a little while, like, oh, he wasn't actually enjoying it, playing it in the same way as me and his older brother. And then he's kind of figured out, okay, he actually enjoys it more when he plays these other game modes, or he's started playing The Sims recently as well, and he gets a lot of pleasure from that. And I really encourage that, and I feel really pleased to see that he is able to kind of pick and choose to do it in a way that works for him, and that it isn't just like, oh, I see this other person having fun, I must have to play it in the same way and then I will have fun. And that's an interesting kind of headfuck that has happened for me as well with gaming, but also with art, like where you see someone else's art and you're like, oh, I love that, I want to do that. And then when you do it, you're like, well, actually, I don't enjoy that. And it's a really weird experience, because you think that just because you see somebody else's enjoyment that it will be enjoyable for you too, but you really have to figure it out for yourself. And it's weird. Sometimes I enjoy watching people play Minecraft more than I enjoy playing Minecraft myself, which is interesting.
I have the same with Assassin's Creed, actually. I can watch, or I used to be able to watch my brother play it for hours, and I would be very invested. But when it was time to play by myself, I was just trying to punch the horse and punch people, and it just wasn't working. I'm going to put an open call out. Please apply to play D&D with me. I will not accept you. No, besides Iris, of course.
Oh, is this one of those things where you have to do an open call to the whole world, but really what you want to say is, Iris, do you want to play D&D with me?
Yeah, like the art date thing.
Yeah. For the record, Tamara's already asked me to play D&D with her, and I've already said yes, so I don't really know what this is about.
I need to get better at the rules. I feel like I will die of the idea that I've wasted your time if you come and it's a basic rule and I've forgotten it, which is my own thing. I need to work on that.
I don't care. Like, it's collaborative. You know, literally, D&D is a collaborative game.
It is. And right now, I have to share it because why not? My brother and my husband, the two people, one I had to marry to play a game with me and the other one had to come out of the same womb to play a game with me. They are hunting for a ring to present a centaur who is a back-to-front centaur, so he's got a horse's body on two human legs.
That's excellent.
For his back-to-front love of his life, which is literally a woman with a bum on her face. So that's the current. If you want to join now, Iris, in the campaign.
Oh my god, I'm very into it. I mean, that's the wrong phrasing to pick right now. But that sounds excellent. That sounds like excellent storytelling.
One of the things that I am loving about this campaign, I am processing some stuff with myself, I think, through this. And obviously it would also apply a little bit to my brother and my husband because we're a family. But one of the characters was an uncle of mine who is not going to listen to this podcast. So I put him in the fucking campaign. That bitch was eaten by a dragon and shat out. And I could see my brother was like, yeah. He was loving it because he's had the same experience. And I was like, oh my God, this is brilliant. So every single character so far that has been working in the police force in my D&D campaign has been somebody from my family that I do not like. And they get eaten by the dragon and shat out. So currently we are on someone who's like really pious. And Miha is like, oh my God, when is she? She's so annoying. When is she going to be eaten by this dragon and shat out? We can't wait for it. So yeah, play D&D so you can get your vengeance on.
That kind of reminds me of, not quite as personal, but when I was in secondary school, like towards the end of my secondary school, I had a lot of exams and like a lot of I had to do a lot of studying. Like, I think that's the hardest I've ever worked in my life when I was in my final couple of years of secondary school. But when I would come home to kind of like blow off steam, I would play this game called Carmageddon. And it's basically a game. Oh my God, I love this game so much. You drive a car and then there's these other like AI opponents that also drive cars and you need to ram each other. And basically kill the other opponents and their cars. And also you can run over pedestrians. And whenever you do something like that, like you ram your opponent or you run over a pedestrian, you get more time because like it's a timed challenge, and if you don't complete it within the time, then you die or it's game over. So you basically have to ram lots and lots of pedestrians. And yeah, it sounds really terrible and violent, and it is. And I really, really loved playing that game. I haven't played it since I was like 18. Loved that game.
The note here is that you were incentivized to do that within the game. It's not like you decided, oh, you know what? I want to go ram this old lady walking across the street. Whereas like Michał doesn't allow me to play The Witcher on his profile because I love dogs. My dog is the love of my life. I just go and kill dogs, geese, animals,
terrible.
and then I take the meat and the fat. You can even kill them just by punching them. Oh God, we shouldn't put that in the podcast. That's horrible.
No, that is horrible. I mean, the thing is, I don't think it's horrible because it's a video game dog. So I guess I've not really thought about it. I don't think I have killed stuff in The Witcher that wasn't like stuff that attacked me. Like if it attacks me, I'm gonna attack it back. But I don't think I've gone and slaughtered innocent dogs.
Those are the things I purposefully avoid in The Witcher. I'm like, knickers? No, thank you. There's a little border collie I saw in the town.
Oh no, that's terrible. Oh.
Yeah, I think that sums up today's podcast. Am I summing it up in a bad way? Let's make a game of it. The person who can sum it up the best gets 5 points.
Yes, that sounds great. I want to invite people to message us and let us know what games they're playing, because obviously this isn't kind of an art and creativity podcast, but I know that a lot of us are gamers and enjoy playing games. And gaming, I should have probably said this at the start of the podcast, but I feel like gaming is very wide, as in like if you play Candy Crush on your phone, that is also gaming. It's just it's not the stereotypical geeky nerdy gaming, but it's also gaming. So I want to know, what game are you playing? What are you enjoying? What do you recommend? What is the game that you keep coming back to? What is the game that you want everybody to know about because it's so amazing? You can write to us, notarealartistpodcast@gmail.com, or if you want, you can find, if you're not listening to this on YouTube, you can find this podcast on YouTube, and that allows you to post comments underneath specific episodes. So you can find us in that way and communicate with us like that too.
5 points. I lost the game. And here are the key takeaways. 1. The label of gamer, like artist, can be difficult for us to claim. When we examine why, we see that we sometimes feel too casual about it, believing we don't invest enough time or effort to deserve the label. 2. We find that gaming serves as a social activity. Both video games and board games allow us to bond with friends and family, whether through collaboration or competition. 3. We noticed that we have personal judgments around gaming being a lesser or wasteful hobby. So, we try to remind ourselves that A. The artistry of games, in terms of storytelling, visuals, and mechanics, is valid. B. Playing games gives us a chance to experience and work through emotions, helping us develop resilience. C. Games put us in unique scenarios that can be cathartic. 4. In both art and gaming, we find that the process, so the storytelling and the journey, is just as important, if not more so, than the win or level up moment. Write to us about your favorite games at notarealartistpodcast@gmail.com. Feel free to share this podcast with a friend or fellow gamer, and remember, I just lost the game.